Welcome back to Movies Explained. Today's film is a drama sci-fi from 2019 titled The Mandela Effect. Brendan, who designs video games, explains that scientists study rats in mazes to understand how memory helps organisms learn and adapt. He uses these principles in his game design, emphasizing the importance of memory for human progress. Brendan, his wife Claire, and their daughter Sam have a wonderful time at the beach. After taking a nap, Sam decides to search for shells with her Curious George toy. Although she promised not to go in the water, she gets distracted and the waves carry the toy away. Sam tries to retrieve it, but the strong sea currents make it impossible for her to return. After Sam's funeral, the family provides support to Brendan and Claire. However, the parents remain deeply affected. Claire struggles to accept the reality, and Brendan is overwhelmed, often crying in his daughter's room. A few months later, Claire decides it's time to move and begins packing Sam's room. Brendan, still grieving, panics and pleads with his wife to leave everything as it is. When he picks up his daughter's favorite books, he notices that the title Berenstain Bears is spelled with an A, even though he distinctly remembers it with an E. Later at night, Brendan can't sleep and hears a noise. Armed with a bat, he discovers it's just his brother-in-law Matt raiding the fridge. They have a late-night snack and chat. Brendan brings up the book title, and Matt shares Brendan's memory of it being spelled with an E. Unable to sleep, Brendan searches online and finds many articles discussing the Mandela effect, where a group of people collectively recalls fake memories. People blame alternate timelines or parallel universes, and it's named after the false memory that Nelson Mandela died in prison. The next morning, as Claire gets ready to return to work, Brendan notices a family photo on the fridge showing the Griffith Observatory. Claire remembers it being taken there, but Brendan recalls taking the same picture at the Pacific Science Center. Claire thinks he's confused and goes back to work. Later, Brendan shares with Matt what he discovered about the Mandela effect. He explains it with examples, such as Nelson Mandela's false death memory, Darth Vader's misquoted line, and the spelling of Looney Tunes. Brendan believes they might be moving between parallel realities or living in a simulation, but Matt doesn't think it's a serious idea. In the following days, Brendan delves deeper into the Mandela effect, watching documentaries about string theory and the idea of a real-life matrix. He takes lots of notes and becomes fixated on the topic, possibly as a way to keep his mind occupied and avoid confronting his grief. One afternoon, Brendan visits a priest to ask why God would take Sam's life. The priest clarifies that Sam's death wasn't part of God's plan. It was a result of free will, which many consider as one of the greatest gifts from God to humanity. When Brendan gets back home, he starts looking into the concept of free will as part of his obsession. Later on, Brendan talks to Matt again, persistently discussing the subject. Matt shares that he spoke with a friend who is a neurologist. She explained that our brains aren't perfect, and memories can get mixed up, with gaps filled by external information. However, Brendan remains stubborn and refuses to accept that it could simply be a coincidence. During dinner, Claire expresses concern about Brendan being distant and encourages him to share his troubles. Brendan asks her to describe the Monopoly Man, and Claire says he has a monocle. However, when she checks the game box, she realizes the little man doesn't have anything on his face. Then Brendan brings out Sam's Curious George book, insisting the monkey used to have a tail in the drawings, and even claiming Sam's plushie had one too. Claire doesn't appreciate Brendan using their daughter's death in this way, but Brendan continues, mentioning that Claire herself said it didn't feel real after the funeral. When he starts talking about reality shifting, Claire becomes frustrated and scolds Brendan for not moving on and channeling his grief into this seemingly pointless obsession. Later on, Brendan and Claire go on a double date with Matt and his new boyfriend. Brendan seems distracted, barely participating in the conversation. Feeling the need for some space, he tries to head to the bar, but Matt reminds him that he and Claire should support each other. Brendan acknowledges this and returns to the table. However, once he's home, Brendan goes back to researching the simulation theory, which suggests we live in a computer-programmed reality. His notes grow, and he creates a board, desperate to find proof of a parallel universe where Sam is still alive. He watches videos of famous people like Elon Musk and Neil deGrasse Tyson discussing the topic, and he stumbles upon the name Roland Fuchs, who is said to be working on proving the simulation. However, the video Brendan finds on websites is no longer available, so he turns to piracy sites that have a backup. The downloaded file is corrupted, but with special software, Brendan manages to fix it. The video shows Dr. Fuchs giving a lecture about the simulation theory, but unfortunately, it gets corrupted again, leaving Brendan with nothing. Undeterred, he searches for Fuchs's current workplace and records a video message for him, refusing to give up on his quest for answers. Days go by, and Brendan doesn't receive a response from Fuchs. He decides to visit the university in person, hoping to meet the doctor. However, Fuchs is too busy to entertain a random fan's musings. That night, Brendan tries to improve his relationship with Claire by being intimate, but he stops abruptly, thinking he can hear Sam calling for him. Frustrated, Claire suggests he see a grief counselor. Instead of following through on seeing a counselor as promised, Brendan shows up at Fuchs's house the next day and persuades him to spare a few minutes. Fuchs explains that the Mandela effect is simply a result of fake memories, but speculates that there might be glitches in the simulation caused by a system update. Brendan suggests hacking the simulation if it's like computer code, but Fuchs dismisses the idea as ridiculous. On their way to the university, they discuss the possibility of the world existing only when observed, comparing it to how video game environments load when a player enters. Brendan proposes overwhelming the simulation's processor to find answers. Fuchs reveals the university has a quantum computer capable of such tasks. In the lab, while Fuchs explains how to enter a code, they are interrupted by Dr. Manning, who disapproves of Brendan's presence. They return to Fuchs's house, where he speculates that the simulation tried to stop him because he's a glitch, and he emphasizes the danger of ideas. Brendan expresses concern about the simulation's intentions, questioning if it seeks recreation or power and drawing parallels to political and corporate influence. Later that night, Brendan has a dream about Sam's death and wakes up when he hears her calling for him once more. He rushes to Sam's room and sees a human shadow that glitches and disappears. Trying to clear his mind, he goes for a drive but starts seeing the world as a giant chain of code connected to a quantum computer. Eventually, he falls asleep in the car and wakes up in a random downtown alley. Suddenly, he hears a painful high-pitched sound, screams, and experiences reality glitching, only to blink and wake up in his usual bed. When Brendan leaves his room, he's shocked to find Sam in her own room, and Claire comes to take her to the bathroom. However, when he tries to follow them, he only sees his wife brushing her teeth. Brendan feels like he's losing his mind, and Claire does her best to comfort him. Later, Brendan goes to the library to get a bunch of books on quantum computing and starts working on a code that could overload the simulation. In the following days, he spends all his time coding, which worries Claire. One night, Sam appears in her parents' room and climbs into bed because she had a nightmare. Brendan sleeps peacefully next to her, but in the morning, he wakes up to an empty bed. Thinking it was a dream, Brendan goes downstairs, but this time Sam is there as if nothing happened. Claire and Matt treat her normally too, so Brendan calls everyone he knows to confirm his suspicions. Nobody remembers Sam dying, so reality has been rewritten. He attempts to discuss the situation with Fuchs, but Fuchs avoids his calls. Brendan believes the simulation returned his daughter to prevent him from creating the code, but he's content to have Sam back. The family spends a lot of time together and is happy until one night when Claire wakes up from a terrible nightmare in a distressed state. Despite insisting she's fine the next day, Brendan finds her burning breakfast and spacing out. Determined to lift her spirits, Brendan takes the family to paint pottery together. Suddenly, cracks appear on his pot, and Claire becomes aggressive, smashing objects because they aren't using the color she wants. Concerned for Claire's well-being, Brendan takes her home, but she remains fixated on Sam, expressing discomfort with the girl's presence. Worried that the reality shift is affecting his wife's health, Brendan asks Matt to babysit Sam and rushes to Fuchs's house. However, he is met by Fuchs's wife, who reveals that Fuchs died 2 months ago due to a lack of recognition from the science community. Despite Brendan thinking he saw Fuchs just 2 days ago, a crack appears on the glass, which he interprets as a sign from the simulation. Determined to fix things, Brendan hurries home and resumes working on the code. Worried that the simulation might harm him as he believes it did to Fuchs, Brendan records a video for his family just in case. While he works, Matt takes care of Claire, who has become unresponsive. Once the code is ready, Brendan goes to the university to access the quantum computer. However, Manning, an obstacle, tries to call security. In an attempt to stop him, Brendan accidentally pushes too hard, causing Manning to hit his head and die. Feeling guilty, Brendan takes Manning's card key and continues. Reaching the computer, Brendan implants his code using a USB stick, and he watches as the computer flickers and makes strange noises. Panicking, he rushes outside to find the parking lot empty, and his car is gone. Suddenly, he's on a bus and receives a call from his wife, who doesn't feel well. Brendan notices passengers glitching through the bus floor, and nearby people have glitching faces. Getting off the bus, he runs through the city, witnessing various glitches. The time of day constantly changes, trees shift colors, and there are 2 moons in the sky. Finally, Brendan makes it back home and quickly embraces his wife and daughter. As they hug, the surroundings start glitching wildly. Claire's face also glitches, and she screams in pain. Meanwhile, in the sky, 2 moons collide before everything turns completely black. Suddenly, lines of code appear on the screen, and the universe begins to reboot itself, going through the entire history of existence, including dinosaurs, lost civilizations, wars, and significant moments in human history. When the reboot concludes, Brendan finds himself on the beach with his family once again. This time, when Sam expresses her intention to search for shells, Brendan insists she leaves Curious George behind, ultimately saving her life. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos.